Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our program tonight. I'm Roger Kempler, board member of the Laguna Beach Historical Society.
It's great to have you here. Thank you, Matthew Papish, for the fine local history video while people were seating themselves. We are here tonight to learn more about and to celebrate Gavy Cravath, Major League Baseball's home run leader in the dead ball era before Babe Ruth, who later became Laguna's local magistrate judge over several decades that included humorous dealings with local characters skirting the law like Surfer, Waterman Peanuts Larson. His crusty non-lawyer style, whose homespun rulings made him a legend on the bench as well as on the ball field. Gavy was also involved with the Water District. There's even a plaque for him there. And various Laguna real estate holdings. From ballparks to the beach, let's discover the story of a home run king who found his place by the sea. We have a distinguished presenter, Rick Reiff, here to tell us about Gavy. Rick Reiff is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, editor-at-large of the Orange County Business Journal, and TV host of public affairs programs. He is a 4-time Golden Mike winner, 3-time Emmy nominee, and 2018 recipient of the Orange County Press Club's Lifetime Achievement Award. Reiff is a native of Chicago and a graduate of the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern University. He roots, too often in vain, he says, for the Chicago White Sox, Cleveland Guardians, and the team formerly known as the Anaheim Angels. He is an avid, if frustrated, golfer. He is married to Marianne Brown, a corporate board director and retired executive vice president of Pacific Life Insurance Co. He has a daughter, Jenny, a son-in-law, retired OC Fire Authority Captain Stephen Miller, and 3 grandchildren. He and Marianne have been happily married and happily residing in North Laguna since 2008. Rick is currently writing a biography on Gavy and leading a campaign to get him elected to the National Baseball Hall of Fame. He welcomes anyone to contact him should one have information, documents on Gavy. I also want to let you know about our next presentation. On the 6th of October 2026, John Stordahl and Hunter Fuentes will discuss Jean-Louis Agasse, an architect who did a number of local projects, several of which preceded Laguna's 1927 incorporation. I would like to thank Adrian Henson, our professional videographer and photographer. For those seeking more information about the Historical Society and Laguna history, please go to info@lagunabeachhistory.org. We also invite you to join the Laguna Beach Historical Society. You can do so by signing up tonight in the back by the door. Your membership and/or small donation helps fray the costs for these presentations, a Laguna Beach High School scholarship, local elementary school visits to the bungalow, and literally to keep our lights on. Feel free to drop by the just refurbished and improved bungalow as well as refreshed exhibits as soon as it reopens to take in some local history, maybe even a tour with one of our docents. Open on Ocean Avenue between Wells Fargo and Whole Foods from 1 to 4 on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And for our valued members of the Historical Society, Equator Coffees, conveniently located next to the Rivian Theater, continues to offer a 10% discount on your favorite beverages, excluding mugs and coffee beans. Our thanks to Equator Coffees for their partnership and providing a wonderful perk for members. Now, please silence your phones, enjoy the presenter, and the Q&A after, led by board member Johanna Ellis. Please join me in giving a big welcome to our distinguished presenter.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Can you hear me? Is this
It helps to go like this instead of like
There we go. Oh, okay. You've done this before. Okay. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you, Roger. I guess I'm looking at the screen here, but thank you, Roger, for that introduction. He told you so much about Gavy. I don't know what else there is to say, but I'll try. I am so gratified to see so many friends here, coming from at least as far as Long Beach, I know, and it's some old friends that I haven't seen in a long time. I wish I could introduce everybody. Time won't permit, but I think there are at least two people at the risk of angering everybody else who I need to welcome. First of all, the greatest public servant I've ever known, John Morlock, is here. Thank you, John. And also, you will hear, or you will see that Gavy has been referred to as Mr. Laguna Beach. Well, we have another Mr. Laguna Beach here, also a Mr. IMAX, Greg McGilvery. Thank you, Greg. And I really need to thank a few people from the Historical Society who have been very helpful. Once they found out I was doing a bio on Gavy, they have just been inundating me with pictures and connections and leads and all that kind of thing. And that's Karen LeGroux, Roger, and Jane Jans. I don't know, is Jane here by any chance? Thank you. Jane is the one, when I first started this, I thought I knew how to pronounce his name. It was Gavy Cravath, and she corrected me. No, it's Gavy Cravath. She had met the judge, and she knew how he pronounced his name. So anyway, so let's meet Gavy Cravath. Short singles are like left-hand jabs in the boxing ring, but a home run is a knockout punch. Now, that gives you an idea of Gavy the ball player. He was cocky, he was confident, he was clever, he was colorful, and while that may seem obvious to us, well, of course, a home run's worth more than a single. Back when he said that in 1914, it was heresy. That's not how you played baseball. Home runs were so rare that you would be a fool to try to develop a winning strategy over hitting home runs. The whole thing is do whatever you can to get to first base, steal a base, bunt the guy along, play scientific baseball. And so Gavy wasn't cut like that, though. He was the first player to hit. He was the first player to hit more than 200 home runs in professional baseball, more than 100 in the minors, more than 100 in the majors. He was the only player in what's now called the dead ball era, 1901 through 1919, who hit more than 100 home runs. Let's meet another Gavy, Gavy the judge. It may be the common law of England, but it ain't common sense. That's pretty much his judicial philosophy right there. You could say he practiced law without a license, or for that matter, a college education. But the voters loved him. They elected him every 2 years for 36 years until his death at the age of 82. And here's a quote about Gavy from somebody who knew him and admired him well, a longtime sports editor at the Santa Ana Register. He called him Mr. Laguna Beach, the man who over a long period of time has given Laguna $1 million worth of publicity, first with home runs and then with his legal decisions. Now, what I'll do in this talk is give you some bio information about Gavy, talk about his impact on baseball, and try to make it interesting even for those of you who aren't really, don't really care that much about baseball. And then talk about some of the important people in his life, and then talk about his impact in Laguna Beach, especially in the areas of real estate, water, and the law. I'll start by reading, you can kind of hear out a rough draft of what I'm working on in the book. There's no video of him, no audio, just a few black and white photographs. More than a century after he played his last game, he's unknown even to most baseball fans. Yet in his heyday, he was acclaimed the greatest home run hitter who ever lived, Clifford Carlton Cravath. His exploits went beyond the ball field. He became a founding father of Laguna Beach, California, and its longtime justice of the peace. That too is little remembered, yet he's discoverable in stories, records, and recollections that span decades in the continent. They reveal a man of quiet strength and relaxed resolve, terse and tough, a prankster who took neither the world nor his own considerable talents too seriously. And for every facet of Cravath, there was a name. He was Gavy and Cactus on ball fields from Los Angeles to Minneapolis to Philadelphia. In the small-town courtroom, where in his later years he presided as a rustic Solomon, he was the Honorable C.C. Cravath. He disliked the nickname Cactus. It alluded both to his prickly personality and his western roots in Southern California, exotic territory to the major leagues of the early 20th century. He liked Gavy, which rhymed with savvy. There were conflicting accounts of how he got the moniker. Gavy himself gave differing versions over the years, but they all agreed that it was a shortened form of gaviota, Spanish for seagull. The most common story was that in a semi-pro game, the young Cravath hit a line drive that killed a seagull flying by. A contingent of Mexican fans began shouting gaviota, and other spectators picked up the chant. Sometimes he was called Gabby, maybe in error, maybe in jest, because he wasn't. Some nicknames are tributes to his hitting prowess: Clouding Cactus, Fence Breaker, Homer, Swat, or jibes at his slowness of foot: Piano Legs, Old Wooden Shoes. Family and close friends often called him Cliff. Many names, twice a legend, an enigma and an anomaly. Colorful California judge who dispensed justice with wisdom but without a law degree. And forgotten superstar, a baseball phenomenon ahead of his time, the greatest home run hitter before Babe Ruth. Gavy was born in 1881 in Poway, a sparsely populated valley in northern San Diego County. He was the second of 9 children of a pioneering family. The gentleman on the left is his maternal grandfather, Zena Sykes, who turned a wilderness into San Diego's first commercial farm, and today it's a cultural attraction which you can visit. It's the Sykes Adobe Historic Farmstead. But farming was hard, and at age 52, Zenas, who had already been lame from a prior accident, was trampled by a team of horses and died just 10 days after the birth of his grandson, Clifford, Gavy. Gentleman on the right is Zenas's son-in-law and Gavy's father, Augustus Kossuth Cravath. I love the names of these old guys. Zenas, Augustus Kossuth, A.K. Cravath. He was a formidable person in his own right. He became the land agent, business leader, and first mayor of the new town of Escondido. He also served briefly as the interim sheriff of San Diego County when the then sheriff got removed from office for taking kickbacks. In 1899, AK picked up, moved his growing family, including the strapping 18-year-old Gavy, 70 miles north to Santa Ana, the seat of the newly formed Orange County. And AK lived there the rest of his life as a popular sheriff's deputy and a criminal investigator. Gavy's time in Santa Ana was short but eventful. He worked some odd jobs. He was a telegraph operator, served in the National Guard, and hunted and fished. Loved to hunt fish. One time around Bakersfield, he and a buddy had a run-in with a mama bear. They had killed a deer and then pitched a tent, spent the night, went back the next morning to claim the deer, and found out the mama bear had now claimed it. A chase ensued. The bear chased them, and they ran up on some rocks, turned around, and shot and killed the bear and the 2 baby cubs. And so they had quite a haul of animal there that they brought back with them. He excelled. He had been a football star at Escondido High School, and then he excelled at Santa Ana as an amateur football player and a semi-pro baseball player. And it's here that he got that distinctive, or in Santa Ana, that he got that distinctive Gavy nickname. Here's a picture of Gavy on some of his early baseball teams. By the turn of the century, baseball was huge in Orange County, just as it was everywhere in the country. In 1903, Gavy turned pro. He was a member of the charter member of the Pacific Coast League. It was formed in 1903 and quickly became acknowledged as one of the great minor leagues. He was also a charter member of the Los Angeles team, which soon became known as the Los Angeles Angels, although initially they were known as the Los Angeles Lulus. And it might be a good name now for them, I don't know. After 5 stellar seasons in the Pacific Coast League, he joined the majors in 1908 with the Boston Red Sox, spent 1909 with the Chicago White Sox and the Washington Senators, and then he was sold by the Senators to the Minneapolis Millers of the American Association, which was, the American Association is the top minor league. He spent 3 seasons there as the star player on one of the greatest minor league teams ever, and I think there's a picture of the Millers there in the bottom right. And this is when Gavy was at his peak. He was in his late 20s, that's when most players are at their peak, and he was establishing great records, but of course was out of the glare of the major leagues. In 1912, he returned to the majors, this time to stay with the Philadelphia Phillies. He was now in his 30s, so at an age when most players are winding down their careers, he's just starting his career. And he then proceeded to have a run of 7 seasons where he won 6 home run titles, 6 National League home run titles, and 4 Major League home run titles. So this might be a good time to linger a little bit on Philadelphia. It was the 3rd largest city in the country at that time, behind New York and Chicago. By comparison, Los Angeles was a hick town. Philadelphia had 2 major league teams, the Athletics and the Phillies were clearly the second banana. It's kind of like, the situation was sort of like the Dodgers and Angels, only worse. The Athletics were led by the legendary Connie Mack, the owner and manager. They were perennial contenders. They won World Series. The Phillies had never even been in a World Series, but then they did acquire some good players, in particular the pitcher Grover Cleveland Alexander, who's one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and Gavy. Now, I'll read another excerpt for you, which I think will give you a sense of Gavy's rise and fall from superstar to forgotten baseball player. Gavy Cravath lumbered into the batter's box. Stocky and barrel-chested, he looked better suited for football pads than a white and red wool baseball uniform. Yet he had the confident bearing of a slugger warming up for a big game. He kicked the dirt and waggled his giant bat. The ball came in, Cravath swung with smooth ferocity. Thwack! The ball soared over the center field wall, cleared the bleachers, and landed at the base of the brick clubhouse perched more than 400 feet away. Fans filing into Philadelphia's Baker Bowl oohed and applauded. It was rare to see a baseball hit so far. Thwack! This ball rocketed into the left field seats. Spectators whistled. Thwack! Cravath connected yet again, lofting the ball over the 40-foot right field fence, highest in the majors. A shot to center, a shot to left, a shot to right. The crowd cheered. In the press box, normally staid observers broke into grins. In batting practice yesterday, the first 3 balls Cravath hit were drives off the premises, the Philadelphia Inquirer would report the next morning. Baker Bowl hummed with anticipation. The Philadelphia Phillies were National League champions for the first time. They were hosting a World Series for the first time. Woodrow Wilson was here, the first time a president was attending a World Series game. And the Phils were 1-up on the American League champion Boston Red Sox in the best-of-7 showdown, having won yesterday's opening game. Cravath had driven in the go-ahead run. Few in attendance on this day of October 9, 1915, doubted that there would be more production from the husky Californian. After all, in the regular season just concluded, Cravath had hit 24 home runs. 24! A 20th century record. Only one other team in the National League had hit more. He knocked in the most runs, scored the most runs, and indicative of the respect he commanded from pitchers, drew the most walks. The outlook was bright for the Phillies and Cravath, and then it wasn't. The Phillies lost the game in the next 3. The Red Sox were world champions, having waited 33 years to win a National League pennant. The Phillies would have to wait 35 more to win another. Cravath didn't homer in the series, didn't hit much at all. His manager said the big guy had been playing hurt, but that didn't lessen the disappointment of Phillies fans nor the vitriol of critics. Cravath would go on to win 3 more home run titles, but he was getting old in baseball years and his skills were diminishing. Moreover, there was a young player on that Red Sox team who would profoundly impact Cravath's legacy. George Herman Ruth. Boston's brilliant rookie pitcher was not a factor in the series. It was said his manager was wary of matching the youthful southpaw against the veteran right-hand batting Cravath. Ruth's only appearance was, portentously, as a pinch hitter. Babe Ruth soon became an outfielder and revolutionized the game. The live ball era he ushered in transformed the home run from an oddity into baseball's most valuable staple. Ruth shattered Cravath's record with 29 homers in 1919, mocked it with 54 the following year, hit 59 the year after that, 60 a few seasons later. There was nothing special anymore about 24 home runs. Gavy Cravath was yesterday. Now, you've heard references to the dead ball. You know, what does that mean? Well, the dead ball didn't go very far. And so why was it that, the home runs are so hard? Suddenly in 1920, everybody starts hitting home runs. What happened? Well, you can see here, these are all famous pitchers of the dead ball era gripping the baseball. And look at those baseballs. They're dirty, they were doctored, they scuffed them, they scratched them, they lubricated them. You've heard of the spitball, and this made the ball move in very erratic ways. It was hard to hit. In addition, if you were a fan back then and you got a foul ball, you were expected to throw it back. Different teams had different rules, but for the most part, you had to throw the ball back. So as the game went on, the ball gets kind of soft. So it's hard to hit. It's hard to hit for distance. By contrast, on the right, that's Clayton Kershaw gripping a baseball, and you can see that there's a little difference. In 1920, all of that changed. They outlawed the trick pitches. Balls were ordered to be put into play more frequently. In 1925, they used 4 times as many balls in a game as they had 10 years earlier. They also made the ball a little livelier by tightening the yarn. And finally, the game just kind of caught up with Gavy. More guys were swinging for the fences, only it was the young Babe, not the old Gavy, who was leading the revolution. I'm almost done with the baseball stuff. You heard the reference to the Hall of Fame campaign. Yes, I'm leading a campaign to get Gavy into the Hall of Fame. And it's kind of the Moneyball approach. Those of you that are familiar with the Moneyball book by Michael Lewis or the movie starring Brad Pitt, these baseball nerds who have used statistics and computers to revolutionize how ball players are evaluated. Well, many of those metrics can also be used to evaluate players from the past. And in Gavy's case, it becomes a revelation. By some measures, he's off the charts. So the mission is to use modern metrics to revive this ancient star. I'll give you just one example. This will be the last baseball graphic. Getting into the weeds now of baseball nerdism, but you don't have to know, you don't have to know what OPS plus and black ink are, other than OPS plus is a widely accepted measure of total offensive prowess, and black ink is league dominance. When you lead the league in something, you get that bold-faced number, and so it's a weighted measure. So to be in the top 40 of either of these groups is something special, because there's almost 200 batters in the Hall of Fame. So even most Hall of Famers aren't in the top 40. And only 25 guys are in both of those lists. And they're names that everybody here would recognize: Mantle, Mays, Ruth, Garrett, Cobb, Aaron. So naturally, they're all in the Hall of Fame, except the 3 you see here. Obviously, Barry Bonds would be in, except for the steroid controversy. Aaron Judge is an active player. Once he's eligible, he'll be in. So the only guy on the outside looking in is Gavy. And the argument is, well, he shouldn't be on the outside looking in. Put him in the Hall of Fame. So, Slugger by the sea. Let's turn to Gavy in Laguna. He was a celebrity resident, one of the first, a real estater. He went into real estate business. I love that term. They don't use it anymore. It's real estate agent or realtor, but real estater, I think that's pretty good. He was a civic leader and booster. He was instrumental in the formation and the growth of the water district. And as already has been mentioned, he was the longtime justice of the peace. Let's introduce you to some people that Gavy were important in his life. First and foremost, his wife Myrtle. She was born in Missouri. She was described as a beauty queen in her youth, a woman with a romantic turn of mind. They probably met in 1903 in Los Angeles when Gavy, his first season with the Lulus, he was obviously living during the season in Los Angeles. She was living in Los Angeles with her parents. From what I can tell, it was a quick romance and a quick wedding. They were married on Monday, September 14, 1903. It was a Monday. And it was like, well, Gavy has an off day. Let's go, let's go get married. That's almost certainly their wedding picture on the left because what she's wearing fits perfectly the newspaper description of what she was wearing because Gavy's a baseball player, so the wedding gets some attention. Not in a bridal gown. And that's a traveling suit, so that would be an ideal outfit for a young lady to put on if she was making a day trip from Los Angeles to the Episcopal Church in Pomona to get married. The account doesn't mention any relatives being there, doesn't mention the parents. That doesn't mean they weren't there, but it's a little odd that the only people mentioned are a woman and two daughters who served as witnesses. But in any case, if the courtship was short, the marriage was long and happy. Gavy died just short of their 60th wedding anniversary. Myrtle was in the small community of Laguna, a socialite. She often attended or hosted bridge parties, afternoon teas, socials. She was also a woman with a car, which back then was kind of unusual, and so there were sometimes accounts of her driving, visiting her mother-in-law, driving with the daughter or two daughters to see friends in San Diego or San Francisco. Gavy and Myrtle had two daughters. The older daughter was Catherine Cook. She was Catherine, then she became Catherine Cook. And she was a star athlete at Anaheim High School and quite a personality in her own right. You can see that story on the left, and this was just a year or two after she was out of high school. She saved a girl, and she actually saved the girl's mother too. She saved two women who had gotten caught in a riptide and swam the lifeline out to them. The lifeline broke. She had to swim it out again. And so that made the news. And then you see 2 years later, that's her wedding announcement. And you can see she's a society woman. And that's an announcement of her marriage to Bill Cook, who had just graduated from USC, where he was a star football player. They had also attended Anaheim High together. And he became the football coach at Santa Ana College. And maybe some of you here knew them or knew about them. But Bill and Catherine Cook were also a well-known couple in town. Their other daughter was Barbara May. She was the younger daughter. I don't have as much information about her or her husband, Charles Owen Jacobs, but I get the sense they weren't as, they were lower key than Bill and Catherine. Gavy officiated at their wedding in 1941. In Catherine's case, he walked her down the aisle, but maybe he had been a judge long enough now that he decided, hey, I'm going to, officiate my daughter's wedding. And then Jeff Cravath. Jeff Cravath was Gavy's nephew, but he was more than that. He was his surrogate son. If you were looking in the sports pages in the 20s or 40s and came across the name Cravath, it probably wasn't the old baseball player. It would have been Jeff. He was a star at USC in football. His teammates included John Wayne and Walter Bond, the actors, and also the aforementioned Bill Cook, who was soon to wed his cousin. And then in the 40s, he was the head coach at USC. He would rank as one of the good but not great coaches. He maintained the tradition. He won several Pac Coast Conference titles. He only beat Notre Dame once, but he beat UCLA all the time. And like his uncle, Gavy, he was blunt and direct, and that didn't always sit well with some alumni, especially those who didn't like the fact that he wouldn't run up the scores. If USC was beating a team real badly, he'd tell his players to, lay off, and some of the alumni didn't like that. I mentioned that he was Gavy's surrogate son. Jeff's mother died in childbirth, and his father died when he was 6. And so Gavy raised him. Gavy and both sets of grandparents raised Jeff. And in fact, some people assumed that Jeff was Gavy's son because he was always with him. But it's unusual because his father's name was Harold Welch. Now, I don't know if he ever took his father's name. The only thing I could find on Harold, he was a soldier in 1902 when he married Gavy's sister Bertha in San Diego. And I've never been able to find anything about the cause of death. So somehow I think there's a story there, but hopefully I can find out a little more about that. After he was the head football coach at USC, he became a farmer. He became a rancher in the Imperial Valley. And in 1953, at the age of 50, he was killed when his pickup truck collided with a dump truck. And it was a farming-related tragedy eerily similar to that of his great-grandfather Zenas Sykes, who had died at nearly the same age, 72 years earlier. On a happier note, Jimmy Austin. Jimmy Austin was Gavy's adult, lifelong buddy. He hung out with Gavy in the off-season. They loved to hunt and fish. And I will underscore again, hunting and fishing in Laguna. Who would have thought that was ever possible? Jimmy spent many years in the majors as a player, manager, and coach, so Laguna was his winter home. And then after he retired in 1940, he became a full-time resident, served on the city council in the 40s, and spent 1 year in 1944 as the mayor. And the evening he got elected by the council, the first person to walk up and shake his hand was his old buddy, the judge.
So, Rick, that's Ty Cobb sliding, isn't it?
Yes, I'm about to.
So Jimmy Austin is the receiving the throw.
You got it. No, you're stealing my thunder here. Yes, very good. That photo on the left is one of the most iconic photos in baseball history. Maybe after the Willie Mays catch, it's the greatest one. And it's Ty Cobb sliding into third base, and you can see the intensity and the fierceness on his face. And the guy who's jumping for his life is Jimmy Austin. And Jimmy often kidded about that. He'd tell people, I'm in one of the most famous photographs of all time, but it's not my face that people see. And so here's a picture of the two old buddies in 1952 at a Santa Ana College baseball game. In some ways, they were very similar. They were both dead ball era baseball players. They both hailed from remote places, Gavy from the cactus land of Southern California, and Jimmy from Wales, Great Britain. They were both old players. They got to the majors late, and then they stayed into their 40s. Both lived into their 80s. Both are buried at Melrose Abbey Cemetery in Anaheim, also the burial place of another Laguna resident with a baseball connection, Jack Norworth, who wrote Take Me Out to the Ball Game. But in other ways, they couldn't be more different. Gavy was a big guy. Jimmy was a little guy. Gavy was gruff and a man of few words. Jimmy was a friendly chatterbox. As players, they were polar opposites. Gavy was the lumbering slugger. Jimmy was the quintessential dead ball era player. He was fast, he was a good fielder, and he hit singles. Nothing but singles. He never hit more than 2 homers in a season, and in his career he hit 13, which was a subpar season for Gavy. So let's talk about real estate. At least as far back as 1904, Gavy had a home in Laguna, a winter home, and every year thereafter he was in Laguna. He probably hunted and fished in Laguna even before that. Here in 1912, he's one of the first buyers in this new development, Laguna Cliffs, the biggest subdivision that Laguna had ever had. And the big selling point was that they had piped in water. Water was hard to come by in Laguna in those days. And so one of the big deals here is that, we have our own dedicated water supply, so you're guaranteed water. And so I don't know, does anybody here hazard a guess as to, we don't call it Laguna Cliffs anymore. Anybody want to take a guess as to what this area is known as now? No? You're
North
close.
Laguna.
Yeah, Heisler Park. Heisler Park, Shaw's Cove, Fisherman's Cove, Crescent Bay. That's the area. So all those lots there, this is when it began. After retiring from baseball in 1922, Gavy goes into the real estate business. If you see that building on the left, the sign closest to the telephone pole says Gavy Cravath Real Estate. On the right, you see the building's still there. Now it's Jasmine Jewels at the corner of Ocean and PCH. Gavy's timing was just perfect. I mean, to go into real estate in Laguna in the early 20s. I am convinced that the 20s is the liveliest time in Laguna's history. It was the rip-roaring 20s in Laguna. There had been two things preventing growth in Laguna, because everybody loved it. It's a beautiful place, but A, you couldn't get there. There were hardly any roads. There was the main road was Laguna Canyon. PCH was just Pacific Avenue, and it was a gravel road, and water was hard to come by. People used wells and cisterns, and you have to take a cart down the Laguna Canyon, fill up, and bring it back. There was a private company, but it was sort of hit or miss, and that changed in the 20s. The water system was launched in 1925. PCH was extended to Laguna in 1926, so now there was a highway coming into town. A city incorporated in 1927, and Gavy was one of the incorporators. You had this bustling artist colony. Actors and others in Hollywood were making Laguna getaway. Ball players were spending the winters in Laguna, mainly because of the encouragement of Gavy. And thanks to Prohibition, you had bootlegging, rum runners. The coves were great places to drop off contraband. And so in 1920, under 400 people lived in Laguna. And by 1930, nearly 2,000 people lived in Laguna. On a percentage basis, it was the most spectacular growth Laguna's ever experienced. So here on the left is Gavy with his first real estate office. It has to be 1923. I'm fascinated a photo like this even exists, because best I can tell, Gavy was only in that building for maybe 3 months. He was subletting space from a Mrs. A.G. Annie Walters, who was a real estate agent, but he quickly left there and became partners with another gentleman. And so if you can see now, this vantage point is you're basically standing on Ocean looking down south on PCH. So let's just turn around, do a 180, and that's still Ocean Avenue crossing. And so now you're looking north on PCH, and that building there is where he moved. And if you look, it says fireworks, there's an awning, and just beyond the awning there's this little shingle sticking out, and that says Gavy Cravath and Andy Hall Real Estate. And who's Andy Hall? Well, Andy Hall became the big banker in Laguna. He founded Laguna Federal Savings and Loan. And that beautiful bank building is still just a few doors down on Ocean. It's now a Piatti restaurant. Heidi Miller is here from Tide Assets, and I was telling her I think she occupies holy Gavy ground. I think that sign there, that shingle, is exactly where Tide Assets is. But I said to Heidi, I think though that's a different building now, because there's a second story on that building, and you only have one story now. And she said they just tore down the second story. She said it was a facade. There was never anything up there. It was just four walls and empty space. They wanted it to look bigger, big and important, but that it was never occupied. So it's still the same building. And you can even see the movie theater, the marquee, just a little further down, with now the Rivian. Let's see. I'm always fascinated by the thought of all of these celebrities that were in Laguna at the time, actors and artists and athletes. And this is a great example. Joseph Kleitsch is one of the great California Impressionists, and in 2023, the Art Museum even had an exhibition of his works. I love the fact exactly 100 years earlier, Gavy had an exhibition of Joseph Kleitsch's works. And I'll read this. Gavy Cravath of baseball fame, and a recent addition to the ranks of real estaters, has gone into picture hanging more extensively than any other business or professional man on the street. He's lately opened a large and beautifully furnished real estate office in the new Murphy building, and there he plans to have a continuous exhibition of painting by Laguna artists. The first exhibit was hung last week, 15 pictures by Joseph Kleitsch. I don't know if Gavy was an art collector, if he owned any of these paintings, but now Kleitsch's go for a few $100,000. And so that was, nice, valuable collection there. If you've ever been to Vista Point, there's that home right on the corner there. That Gavy lived there for a while. He later lived in top of the world, but he lived in this home and just could walk right across the street to where that sign for Crescent Bay is, and he had a shack there. So, and then he did a lot of his real estate there. So I guess he didn't want to do it out of his house, so he did it across the street. And who's going to tell the judge he can't put a shack on open space, So that's what he did. This was another favorite hangout of Gavy's, the lawn bowling field at Heisler Park. He was a champion lawn bowler, and there will be one more mention later on about the lawn bowling. In 1925, Gavy put together a really big deal at the time. You can see an LA realtor buys canyon near Laguna for $250,000, and if you look at the larger type there, it was put over by Gavy Cravath, famous run hitter of the big leagues, who is now a member of the firm of Cravath and Hall, Laguna Beach Realtors. This was an ambitious project. It called for 700 plus lots on the land side of Pacific Avenue, soon to become PCH. On the water side, there were going to be cottages, a pier, playgrounds. It was called at the time Niguel Canyon. Last quiz. Anybody want to guess what it's called today? Emerald Bay. But you cheated, Marianne. You okay. All right. So Gavy, this was the beginning of Emerald Bay. If you ever go to the Laguna Beach Water District's office, which is just a short block from where we are right now, not that you'd ever have reason to, because they do a great job, online and over the phone. But if you did, and when you walk out that door on the left, you might see, although like so many things, Gavy has sort of faded with time, you'd see this plaque, which is dedicated to Gavy for his long service in various capacities with the Water District. Is Chris Regan here by any chance? Chris, thank you for coming. Chris is, I thank Chris for these next two slides. This is one that Chris showed this same group in this room last year on the 100th anniversary of the Water District. So Gavy spent 7 months in 1926 as the general manager. This was a time of a lot of flux. The Water District had just been established. A lot of balls are in the air. All the money's not there yet. And Gavy stepped in and served as the general manager. He served on the board for 20 years, from 1932 to 52. He was the board president for 8 years. And he was a leading force in the creation of the Coastal Municipal Water District, which was a big deal because in the 40s, the initial water supply was running low. Laguna wanted to get get in on the action with the Colorado River and Northern California water, but Little Laguna couldn't do it on its own, so Gavy was one of those that put all the coastal communities together. They formed a district, and then they got in, and indeed Gavy served as the representative on the powerful MWD for 15 years. But Gavy's greatest contribution to the water district, according to legend, is this. In January of 1926, the voters of Laguna Beach approved a critical $600,000 bond issue to fund their new water district. And the vote was 437 to nothing. Now think of that. Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin don't get 437 to nothing. And could you imagine anything in Laguna today passing unanimously? You know, it boggles the mind. So how did it happen? Well, according to the story, fearing that the issue wouldn't pass the night before, Gavy sneaks out and connects an abandoned brackish well to the pipeline that fed the village. The next morning, residents woke up to smelly, foul water and, disgusted, voted overwhelmingly in favor of the bonds. Now, it's a great story, and it's not hard to imagine Gavy trying to pull something like that, but I'm sorry. I am here to say I think it's an apocryphal story. First of all, I believe it originated years later, and it probably originated from Gavy himself. He was a good storyteller. And just consider the sheer audacity. You've got a leading citizen with a conflict of interest, because when this bond is approved, of course, the real estate values go up. And so he's going to go and pull a caper, and children and old people are going to get sick from putrid water. You know, today he'd go to jail. So I'm not...
Well, he was the justice of the peace.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, but finally, there's this. This is a clip from the day of the vote, and so it was written the day before. And you can see all the water officials are saying, we think everyone's going to vote for this. There was one guy we know who was against it, but he changed his mind. So, you know, it was pretty much a done deal. But if you want to believe the story, it's a wonderful story. A postscript, Gavy was the auditor of the water district, so it was his signature on each of the 600 $1,000 bonds. So bondholders not only got a bond, they got a Gavy Cravath autograph. And now, you know what? I do have to point out the reason I just got a kick out of that picture on the left. You see that dancing, the dancing lady there? That's Sally Rand. Did anybody ever hear of Sally Rand, the famous fan? This is when she still wore clothes when she was dancing. Right. And now the only thing next to Gavy, the baseball player, the next thing I love the most is Gavy the judge. He was Laguna's longtime justice of the peace. His folksy wisdom and informal demeanor made him a source of local pride and a cult figure in California legal circles. Baseball fans would drive down from Los Angeles just to get married by him. The way Gavy told it is that he and two other businessmen were upset with the incumbent judge, who they felt was being too easy on bootleggers, and bootlegging, was not good for Laguna's reputation. So he drew the short straw, so he had a run, and he won handily. He was and that judge, by the way, later got indicted for taking bribes from bootleggers, but he was acquitted. Gavy's elected in 26. He's elected every 2 years thereafter until he dies in 1963. He simultaneously served as Laguna Beach's city judge, except for 1 year that I'll get into in a moment. California was still evolving its legal system from the frontier days. There were little courts, rural courts, overlapping jurisdictions. Basically, the justice of the peace, who was elected by the voters, did weddings and criminal arraignments. The city judge, who was appointed by the city council, collected fines, mostly for motorists and, at that time, bootleggers. It's the Depression. City coffers are hurting. This rival political faction comes up. It would probably be like the John Morlock faction, and we're fiscally responsible. They took dead aim at Gavy. First of all, Gavy was on the Water District Board, which they felt was being profligate. They're, spending too much money. and he's the city judge, and he's not bringing in any revenue. Gavy didn't like to fine people. So Laguna was bringing in like $1,000 a year in fines. In San Clemente, they were bringing in $10,000 a year. So the council is now 3-2, against Gavy, so he's forced to resign. But he gives a blistering speech defending his record, saying he was proud that Laguna was a friendly and welcoming place, and San Clemente was on the blacklist of the motor club. They tell people, don't go there. The cops are mean. They're gonna ticket you. They also tried to remove Gavy from the water board. In that case went to court. Gavy prevailed. He stayed on the water district board. And in the next election, the old guard took over again. Gavy was reinstated as the city judge forevermore. By the way, that 1 year that he wasn't the judge, he was replaced with an orthodontist. So this is early California justice. The baseball judge is replaced by a dentist judge, So finally, let me share some some Judge Cravath anecdotes. I think you'll enjoy them. An obnoxious fellow came to Cravath wanting to file a complaint against another citizen for calling him an SOB. You are, Cravath said. Request denied. 2 men were brought before the judge for fighting. Cravath fined the winner of the tussle $5. He fined the loser nothing, reasoning the man had already been punished enough. Cravath asked a minister charged with speeding, guilty or not guilty? Guilty is all outdoors, the clergyman replied. $10, suspended, the judge pronounced. I think a minister needs the money more than Laguna. 2 years into his job, the Laguna Beach Times declared that Cravath is earning quite a reputation as a Solomon. 2 years after that, in 1931, the Sporting News told its readers that the old home run king dispenses a lot of justice, even though it may not be according to Blackstone. He was said to take the detailed jury instructions from lawyers, toss them aside, and give jurors his abridged version, along the line of, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant is charged with theft. If you are so dumb you don't know what it means to steal, you shouldn't be on the jury. Now, if you find that he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, convict him. If not, acquit him. Cravath ordered Pete, a town drunk, to hop on the back of a police officer's motorcycle for the 20-mile ride to the county jail. Pete, familiar with both the law and the judge, protested. You can't do that, Gavy. Hell, I ain't even been arraigned yet. Now look here, Pete, Cravath said as he jotted down some notes. I know you were drunk, you know you were drunk, and we're not gonna waste any of the taxpayers' money on any goddamn trial. He handed Pete his commitment paper. It says right here that you were arraigned, advised of your constitutional rights, pleaded guilty to being drunk in public, and were committed to the county jail for 7 days. Any argument? There wasn't. An assistant DA was getting ready to drive to Laguna for a preliminary hearing when Cravath phoned. Bob, don't bother to come down. I just put the guy in the witness stand, sweated a confession out of him, reduced it to petty theft, fined him $50, and he left town. 2 lawyers were volleying legal intricacies. Cravath grabbed his hat and headed out the door, remarking, argue it out among yourselves. It's too deep for me. Anything you agree on is okay with me. Fishing violators often appeared before Cravath, especially during the Great Depression. The ocean's abundance attracted enterprising fishermen, which in turn drew state fish and game wardens. To their consternation, the lawmen often found themselves paddling against the tide in Judge Cravath's courtroom. When a warden used high-powered binoculars to nab a diver collecting too much abalone, Cravath, an abalone hunter himself, was less upset with the accused than he was with the officer who Cravath felt was being sneaky. He found the man guilty, but only fined him 2 cents. In the 30s, Cravath heard a case. By the way, is Craig Lockwood here by any chance? No? Okay. And this, Roger Kempler alerted me to this book, and I'm sure some of you know Craig Lockwood. In the 30s, Cravath heard a case against a free-spirited young waterman on his way to becoming, like the judge himself, a local legend with a catchy nickname. George Peanuts Larson had been caught without a license catching 2 lobsters out of season. Larson's surfing buddy, Brennan McClellan, described the scene decades later in Craig Lockwood's book, Peanuts. Judge Cravath asked Larson what he planned to do with the bugs. Well, sir, I was going to take one home for my dad, Roy, my mother, and me. The other one I was planning to cook for Mrs. Johnson. You mean the old widow, Mrs. Johnson, who can no longer walk down to the store? That's right, Your Honor. Justice Cravath thought for a moment and said, well, Peanuts, did you know the season for lobster is over? Yes, sir, I heard that, sir. Did you see it posted anywhere? Did you see it in print? No, sir, I never did, sir. Well, then, as required by law, I'm going to sentence you. But first, I'm instructing the Fish and Game officer here to present you with a printed set of all the fishing regulations. Now, your sentence is to read every one of them. Then you will buy yourself a fishing license. Since you can't afford one, I will buy it for you, and you will pay for it with whatever fish I ask you to catch. Right? Finally, I want your solemn promise to this court that you will never, under any circumstances, get caught taking any sea creature out of season. And Peanuts kept his promise. He was never caught again. Cravath was 60 when the Sporting News revisited in 1941. Residents of Laguna Beach say he is a stern magistrate, asks no favors and gives none, that he keeps order and is noted for his fairness and understanding. The reporter also noted that Cravath worked short hours. The county prosecutor said most cases had to be taken to the lawn bowling field where the judge spent his afternoons. I'm around in the morning, what more do they want? Cravath snorted. If people have to get in trouble, let them do it while I'm in the office. Judge Cravath made national headlines in May 1944. Ramel Teresa Ney Schneider, better known as Mrs. James Roosevelt, daughter-in-law of President Franklin Roosevelt, was clocked in Laguna Beach driving 50 miles per hour, twice the speed limit. Under wartime rules, convicted speeders could have their gasoline coupons revoked by the Federal Office of Price Administration. Many expected Cravath, a self-proclaimed hard-boiled Republican, to deal harshly with a relative of America's top Democrat. He didn't. He fined Mrs. Roosevelt $10 for speeding, but declined to report her to the powerful rationing board. I'm not a stool pigeon for the OPA, he snapped. But everyone knew what had happened. What were the feds going to do about it? If we had received the conviction certificate, we would have acted on it, the regional OPA director announced. But since they hadn't, we'd decided to forget the whole thing. Case closed. If his legal demeanor was unconventional and his rulings often unorthodox, Cravath's judicial record was nonetheless solid. Among thousands of decisions, only twice was he overturned on appeal. His passing prompted a letter to a California legal journal. Those of you who appeared before Gavy found little respect for formalism, but great respect for justice in terms that the layman could understand. Humor, skepticism, and a large measure of knowledge about people helped Judge Cravath perform well that often contradictory task of keeping in mind at the same time the interests of the people and the interests of the person. I suppose Gavy was an anachronism. I am sure he is irreplaceable. Thank you.
Okay, time for questions and answers. This one's not on?
No, it's on.
It is? Okay. Okay, we'll start over here.
How many players from the dead ball era are in the Hall of Fame?
That's a good, can you hear me? All right, that's a good question, and it's actually, I like it because there's a good answer. Given the era, they could use one or two more from the dead ball era. It's not oversaturated with dead ball era players. I think I'm guessing maybe 20 who spent most of their career in the dead ball era. Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a young neighbor who's a minor league player. Just went back to play in Kentucky, but his real passion is baseball card collecting. He's got a huge collection. Is there a card for Gavy?
There is, and you saw a couple of them here. Let's see. Well, I'd have to run all through them. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. You're seeing some other stuff, just in case somebody had a question. But let me stop on. There, that's a 1915 Cracker Jack card, very colorful. He's also on a tobacco card, and that's, now you're dragging me into the weeds now, and I'm going to start telling you the weeds. But one of the arguments is, oh, he spent so much time in the minors, but baseball was a different game then. And the majors were only concentrated in the northeast part of the country. So you had the American Association, Pacific Coast League. You had a lot of good baseball being played all over the place. And one indication of that is that there's the tobacco cards, like the Honus Wagner card that you've heard about. Well, 1/4 of the players are minor leaguers, including Cravath, Minneapolis. So it was, could you imagine now minor leaguers in a set of baseball cards? But back then it was. So you have this, you've got the tobacco card, and then you've got that other picture I showed you. Let's see. Yeah, that one there. And so that's from 1916. And you could have gotten the whole set of 200 cards for like $2.50, which of course it'd be like $35-40 now, but you'd get all 200. That Babe Ruth card you'd have to pay over $1 million for that now. And Gavy would cost you a few hundred. You'd have to for the Gavy card. Yes.
What position did he
Hang
play?
on, please, because it's being videoed.
Rick,
Yes.
what position did he play?
Right field. The right fielder. Yes.
So Rick, what's involved at this point in getting him to the Hall of Fame, and what's your strategy?
Okay, my strategy, first of all, I know of a couple of sports writers. I also have a partner from Orange County in this. His name's Ed Munson. I don't know if anybody knows him. He's an author, businessman, and he is one of the official scorers of the Dodgers and the Angels, and he has some in. So the main thing is there had been a prior attempt to get Gavy in the Hall of Fame about 30 years ago, and they were handicapped, because they didn't have all the modern metrics that I just showed, the statistics. And they also just didn't have the connections. And I think we are going to, already people are kind of aware, so they'll know we're going to be pestering and making a presentation. The unfortunate thing is it'll happen next year, 2027, in late 2027. That's when the committee will meet. And frankly, I don't think we're going to do it this time. I think it will maybe the time after, 3 years after. But the problem with the next time is Pete Rose is going to be one of those under consideration. He's going to suck all the oxygen out of the room, and he'll, whether he makes it or not, it's probably going to be hard to, for Gavy or anybody else to rise to the top. Yes. Yes, Mr. Morlock.
Mr. Reiff, what is the origination of the team, the Minneapolis Millers?
What do you mean, the origination? Oh, why do they call the Millers?
We have LA Lakers from Minnesota because of the lakes.
I assume they were milling something. I don't know.
That's all I wanted to do.
All right.
I wanted to stump you, brother. If you go to Minneapolis, one of the historical landmarks at the top of the Mississippi River is the flour mill.
All right.
And so it's a museum, and we were
Yeah.
there, and it was closed on Mondays, and we just happened to be there on Mondays, so I didn't get to see it, but my family comes from a milling background.
Very good. Yes.
Before I moved to Laguna Beach, I never heard of Gavy Cravath, but I heard of Home Run Baker. I have a couple of questions. So I was wondering, how do you compare to Home Run Baker?
Oh, he was better than Home Run
Okay.
Baker. All right, no, seriously, Home Run Baker is a Hall of Famer. And he was called Home Run Baker for two reasons. One, because he did lead the American League a few times in home runs.
Oh, there you go.
And, I thought I had here, I'll just put it on there for a moment, because you'll see Home Run Baker's name on there, I believe. But he didn't hit as many home runs as Gavy, not close. I mean, like I say, in the dead ball era, Baker did play a little bit in the 20s, so he hit a few home runs then, but, no, and he was called Home Run Baker. And so,
That's why I heard of him.
because Connie Mack was always he played for Connie Mack, as I said, they were always in the World Series, so he got a lot of attention. Gavy is, playing with Philadelphia.
And people are surprised that, like Babe Ruth, he struck out many more times than hitting home runs. And I think that's true of Shohei Ohtani, too. How did Gavy Cravath do with striking out? Do you have any idea?
Yes, I think he fit that mold. But I mean, he wasn't wild that way. But let's go. Let's see. Is this? Let me go. What am I doing here? Oh. Do I have to start all over again? Yep. Here I go. Okay. Anyway.
Well, while you're looking for that,
Yeah.
if you could discuss, currently, minor league teams are owned by major league teams. But my understanding is that half of Gavy Cravath's career was in the minor leagues.
Right.
But he was owned by the minor leagues and the contract was
Right.
owned. And
Yes, exactly. And it was different. They were not a farm system of they competed with the majors for players. And, the majors were at the highest level, but the minors were far more competitive. And there's no question that Minneapolis team that Gavy played on would have probably finished in the middle of, the American or National League.
And in a prior Laguna Beach Historical Society meeting, a judge came in and said he had an anecdote that before the Justice of the Peace, Gavy Cravath, and he says, I'm the attorney representing, oh, you have an attorney, you must be guilty.
I cut that one out, but it is, yes, it's a good one. So let's look over here. Can we see his strikeouts on there? I'm trying to think. You can't even tell. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, I don't know if they have it on there because this was. Since it's up there, I'll explain it because somebody wanted to know, how did I get interested in this? It has nothing to do with living in Laguna Beach. It's just destiny that I wound up in Laguna Beach. This is when I first became aware of Gavy. Then Jane, I thought it was Gavy Cravath. I'm a teenager, I'm a baseball nerd, and this baseball encyclopedia comes out by Macmillan in 1969, and it was earth-shattering. It's the first time that there were a comprehensive record of every player who ever played in the major leagues, and so everybody's in there. And that's where this black ink thing, you see those boldface numbers for Gavy. If you led the league in something, you got a boldface. Well, as you're flipping through the book, most of the people with boldface are Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth and Willie Mays and people like that. And I come to this, Gavy, who the heck is this guy? I never heard of him. So and then it's like, well, wait, he was so old before he got to the major leagues. He was in his late 20s, and then he disappeared for 3 years. What's going on? So that just began a lifelong fascination of looking into this guy a little more and studying. And in the 80s, I went to Cooperstown and spent a day there going through their library, and they had a file of clips, and that's where I found out, he became a judge in Laguna, and he grew up in California and all that. So that's where it all started, and now I'm retired, and so I've got the time to devote to giving Gavy his due.
If you are interested in having some more pictures of him, the Lawn Bowling Club does have some pictures.
All right. Yes. Yes. So who should I contact you about that? Or?
No, but you can just call the Lawn Bowling Club. Has a history book.
Okay.
Of him and Jimmy Austin playing.
No. Oh, Jimmy played too.
Yes.
Of course. Whatever Gavy did, Jimmy did. Yeah. Okay. Great. Well, thank you so much for that.
Two more questions.
Okay.
You say you're writing a book about it.
Yes.
How far along are you, and when might it be?
Well, given I'm moving at senior speed now, so I think realistically, I hope it would be sooner, but I'd say 2 years. 2 years.
I mean, that should help promote him for the Hall of Fame, having this book about
Right,
him.
right, and it probably won't be in time for this time around, but it will for the time after.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
One more question?
How much further down on the descendants have you gone?
Not much. So if anybody here knows, anybody, a granddaughter or something like that. But I know that the guy who had the campaign 25 years or so ago, didn't really, there didn't seem to be that much interest. But I do think there's a
His
grandson.
granddaughter lives-
What?
His granddaughter does live here in town.
Is she still, that's Ginger McMillan? Is she still,
She's on, yeah, she lives on Jasmine, just a couple of doors down.
okay. Well, okay, is she still,
Well, she's old.
yeah.
Some of us are also old.
Yeah.
You know,
So are we.
Yeah, okay, well, you know what, I've got to talk to you after we're done here, okay, because so I know she was quoted, she was, you see, the thing is, I think that, and I would like to talk to her, but I think that probably whatever she had to say is already out there. She did talk about the fact.
She has a lot of photographs and stuff too. So.
Oh, okay. Because I had been told the family didn't have much anymore. They'd had a fire or something. And no. Okay, well, great. But I know that she did say, it's kind of interesting, and I think this is another reason, Gavy, one of the things I'm still researching is why the heck didn't he get in when they started voting people into the Hall of Fame? And I have a couple theories on that too, but too much to get into tonight. But I know that one of the things, though, was that Gavy, he probably just didn't care that much. He wasn't that kind of guy. He wasn't a self-promoter. And hey, I played baseball. What do I care what some people think of me or how I played? It just wasn't at the top. But Ginger said that he always thought Babe Ruth was a hot dog. And so I don't know. However, I've also done research. He was pretty generous when Ruth started hitting home runs. He spoke highly of him. They also had a showdown one time, and it's the only time they had a showdown. Can I go on, or do we have to wrap it up here?
2 more minutes.
All right, okay. In 1919, this was after Ruth breaks his record, but Gavy had a great year in 1919. I don't know if you can see it here. He's almost 40 at this point. He leads the National League with 12. Babe hit 29 in the American League, so that doesn't look like anything. But the guy was only up 214 times. If you adjusted for plate appearances, and he had the same plate appearances as Ruth, the leaderboard would have been Ruth 29, Cravath 25, and everybody else 10 or fewer. So Gavy, even as an old man, as the live ball era is coming in, he's starting to up his game too. And so that postseason, Ruth comes to California for the first time. He's going to cut a movie. His audition bombed, so they never made the movie. But he's playing exhibition games, and he and Gavy hook up for 2 games. Gavy gets 4 hits in the 2 games. Ruth only gets 2, but Ruth hit a home run. Gavy hit a double that went to the fence, but Ruth hits a home run. That's all anybody talked about. Babe hit the home run, so poor Gavy just couldn't win. Couldn't win against me. So,
You're welcome
okay,
to
well,
come
thank
up
you.
and visit with Rick on your own. Thank you
All right,
so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.